What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome back to Endure, Believe, Rise. I hope this message reaches you in good energy. I hope you and your loved ones are in good health. So today I wanted to talk about assumptions. Boy, this is going to be a great video. So strap in, settle in, and listen up because it might take a little while for me to get this one done. So let's get into it because we have an awesome quote. Quote of the day. You decide to get married and you make the assumption that your partner sees marriage the same way that you do. Don Miguel Ruiz. Song of the day, 9 by Drake. So the analogy used here is marriage, but we can take marriage and we can replace that with any relationship that involves another person, place, or thing. Employment, playing on a sports team, playing online with friends, having a friendship, mother to son, father to son, brother to brother, mother to daughter, father to daughter, sister to sister, sister to brother, auntie. We can do any relationship and replace it with marriage here, and we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about assumptions. We're talking about how assumptions are not just detrimental to relationships, but they're downright disrespectful, right? They're downright, in a lot of ways, you just don't want to do the work. I'm going to explain. So let's get into it, right? When you marry someone and you are in love, when you're marrying for love, a lot of things are overlooked. A lot of questions are assumed. A lot of things are assumed. We assume that this person wants to have children. We assume that this person wants to raise the kids in the same manner as we do. We assume that this person wants to educate those kids in the same way. We assume that this person wants the same type of house. These are all things that I find when I'm doing marriage counsel and people are getting ready to get married, or they've decided to make the decision to get married, that they have not discussed with their loved one. And it's like, these are deal breaker questions, right? How do you spend your money? What do your finances look like? What do your savings look like? How are you in a 401k? Is it aggressive? Is it non-aggressive? Do you have mutual funding? Do you invest in CED? These are the questions that can make or break a marriage. And I know I may be boring some people, and I'm definitely getting to a point here, but I want you to know the biggest reason, the number one reason people get divorced is not for cheating, it's not for abuse, it's for finances. The number one people leave their spouses is financial disagreement. How to spend the finances, the fact that they were lying about finances, the fact that they were hiding finances. These are the number one reasons that people decide to go to break their counsel, right? So what are we talking about here? We're talking about asking questions. We're talking about being brave enough to ask questions, being daring enough, having the courage to stand out there and ask someone how they feel about said situation, to ask someone what they think about this particular area in your life, in their life. Because only then can we actually get an answer. This is the thing, right? We have all been trained and conditioned that asking questions is wrong. We've all been trained and conditioned that answering questions makes us look weak. It makes us look like we don't know. And we've all been trained and conditioned that that's a bad thing. But it's not. It is not a bad thing to not know. It is not a bad thing to want to know. It is not a bad thing to make sure, to repeat back what you heard and regurgitate it back to that person in a different way so that you both are on the same page. When you are in a union, it is imperative that the two are not just on the same page, but the same sentence. You're not ahead of me. You're not behind me. We're right there, parallel to each other, moving forward with the same destiny, the same thought on what success and solutions look like, right? Now, for all of us who are not married, for all of us who are not in a relationship, how do we implement this in our daily lives, right? How do I strike this same don't make assumptions, ask questions? Well, that's a perfectly good question, and I'm glad you asked me, because if you are at a job, you're in a relationship. If you play on a sports team, you are in a relationship. If you have kids, you are in a relationship. The word relationship is not confined to a romantic involvement with somebody else, but it is a relation to how you are in relation to said individual or said thing. What is your relationship to your job? What is your relationship to your kids, right? And when it comes to any relationship, making assumptions is dangerous. We assume everybody knows we're going to go right. We're walking, and this is the analogy, right? We're all walking, we're all marching toward a destination, and you know that we're supposed to go right. You know when we come up to this bend, we're supposed to go right. And we assume that everybody knows that we're going to go right. You turn, go right. 75% of the people go with you. The other 25% of the people go left. Now, because you assumed, you just lost 25% of your troops. You just lost 25% of your group. You just lost 25% of the people that were depending and needing your leadership. Rather than, before you get to that bend, letting everyone know, do we know which way to go, guys? Or rather, even declaring, hey, when we get to this first bend, we're taking a right. Now, everybody has heard what you said, right? At least that's another assumption. Now, how do we make sure that they do? We ask them, who heard me and who knows what direction to go? Okay, raise your hand if we're going to go right. Raise your hand if we're going to go. These are the steps that are taken. And I know that I get personally in my personal life, if I can just take a pause and talk about just myself for a minute, I get it from people. They say I over-explain things. They say all of my answers are long and lengthy, right? But what I won't do is sit up there and say, give you the strength or give you the position to say that I didn't clarify myself. I won't give you the area to say, you know what, I didn't make myself clear. You can have those arguments with your other friends. You can have those disagreements with your other friends. But when it comes to me, you're going to know where you stand and you're going to know how I felt because I took the time to explain it to you. If it took 3 hours, if it took 3 minutes, if it took 3 days, I'm going to explain exactly what I'm talking about. You're not going to be over there and say that Willie wasn't a good communicator. You're not going to be over there and say that Willie failed to tell you how he felt. You're not going to be able to sit up there and use that excuse that you didn't know how I felt or what I was talking about. And we can talk about that on another day. But today we're talking about assumptions. And sometimes it isn't even that people are assuming because they're scared to ask the question. Sometimes they're just assuming because they're disrespectful. They're going to assume that you should know exactly what's going on in their head. And last time I checked, I didn't know any mind readers. I don't know any Professor Xavier's or Jean Greys. I don't know no people that can just pluck it out of thin air. So you need to say what you want. And sometimes you need to say it twice and then explain it in 3 different ways to make sure that they know what you want. Plain and simple, the moral of the story is do not be scared to ask questions to make sure that that person understands you and that you understand them. Don't be scared that somebody's going to think that you look dumb or incompetent or that you don't know what you're talking about. Be scared to be doing something and not know what you're doing. Be scared to be loving someone and not loving them the correct way. Be scared to be inside of a relation, whether it be employment, a teammate, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a friend, and not understand where you stand with them. Be bold enough, have enough courage to stand there and ask questions rather than make assumptions. All right, guys, I need you to take care of yourselves. Please be kind to one another. Keep me in your prayers. I'll forever keep you in mind. Endure, believe, rise.